Okay, I think they're going to turn audio on. Thank you. So welcome everyone. This is an education specific vertical type of conversation. So I welcome you. If you don't want to wear a headset or anything, feel free to move forward so you can hear me. I have a teacher voice, so I'm used to projecting. And they said, no, just talk in your normal voice. So I don't know if you'll have to turn the volume down or not. I don't know. But over 35 years in education, teaching, and I have found that in the last 3 years since I gave up teaching, my teacher voice is kind of starting to go away. I don't project as well as I used to. I've been here at Cisco now 15 years, and when I came to Cisco, they asked, can you still keep teaching because it keeps you relevant to what we're always talking about here at Cisco? So I kept teaching. And there was just one little thing. I stopped teaching the semester before the pandemic. And my dean called me up and she said, what did you know? Why? You knew something. And I said, no, I honestly didn't. But my doctoral dissertation is in hybrid learning and in the use of collaboration tools. And so the dean was just like, you knew something. And I'm like, honestly, I didn't. So we'll get started. So thanks again for joining me today. I am excited about this conversation that we're going to have because what I hope to bring to you today is the three pillars of the three main pillars of what we're talking about with digital resilience and our workspaces and things like that, and as well as our AI-ready data centers, and give you examples from the customers that I work with all over. Now, today, feel free to grab into this space here to get into the WebEx app and keep this conversation going well beyond today. As a hybrid educator, that's what I love, is that connection that I'm always able to do when I'm teaching and with my students. And so to have this kind of platform to where you can always reach out to me, I'm super excited about that. So please do feel free to pop into this space and keep this conversation going. Now, as we think about Cisco and the power of Cisco, the underlying theme that you've heard today is all about that accelerated Cisco AI. But I'm going to bring into the light of the conversation these three main areas. We're talking about digital resilience. We're going to talk about the workspaces and the learning spaces on our campuses. And then we're going to kind of wind this up with AI-ready data centers and how that applies into the educational environment. And like I said, I lead, I have a partner in crime on the public sector team for business development and education. And we try and get as far and fast and furious out into all of our customer base. And I talked with a few of you prior to this session, and it's like, oh, I've been on your campus, or I know your institution. But my background comes from being an educator. I was in a K-12 environment. I taught everything pre-K through grade 12. And you think, how'd you do that? Well, I did. And I just, I got a little bored with early childhood education and elementary ed, so I decided to go back and get a master's with science and math as my background with secondary education with middle schoolers. And if you think 7th and 8th grade science students are very similar to kindergarten students, they really are. They really are. The feet are just growing. The behaviors and some of the things they do. But then going into the high school and really delving into physics and my chemistry area, that is what where the fun really kind of happened. I've also been a district administrator, a building principal in both rural and in urban areas, and went into district administration, and then led a part of a team to build out a statewide network so that we could truly think about remote education. And I'm from Nebraska. So when you think about the rural areas in Nebraska, how do we get highly qualified teachers into each and every area? And so some of the things that are coming to fruition now, I feel like that was the dream 15 years ago, 20 years ago, when we were trying to work through some of these things. So as we think about these three areas, know that I'm coming with that lens. But I've also have been teaching at 2 different universities, technology and education, and in helping administrators truly understand how do they think about the use of technology in the teaching and learning environment, but also how do we need and use technology in the infrastructure side of it so that we can make the environment on our campuses a seamless environment and an exceptional experience for staff, faculty, and students. So let's jump in, digital resilience. How do we stay connected? This is that piece that, as we're thinking about, can this environment be up and running all the time? And that's a lot of times from the IT, the network side, the network team is saying, that's what's most important. I have to answer to the chancellor and to the curriculum people. This is an important piece, is my network resilient for all the applications, for all of the students, the faculty and staff that need to be on this network? Is it up and running, and how does it act and react with the various applications? So when we're thinking about that interoperability of all these applications and the use of them running on the network, and many of those IoT devices that we're putting in the rooms, we want to think about this. So as we dig deeper into this resilience piece, we're going to pull in that assurance and observability piece. And I like this because I want to be assured that the network's running, but I also want to observe and see what's happening on with the network so that I can continue to truly make adjustments and be more of a proactive department on my network rather than just being reactionary at all times. And of course, security is a given, especially in our educational institutions. This has been a piece that, as we know, our educational institutions are more of an attack area than any other industry. And so this is an important piece that I always want to keep at the forefront in this space. And I'm not used to having this, so I'm thinking differently, so sorry about that. On the next slide, we really want to talk about that. How can we use AI to help us deliver that digital resilience on our network? How can AI embedded into the network help us be that proactive? But now it's also time to think about how can AI help us with, or how can digital resilience help us with our AI environment? And as we build out AI, whether on-prem, a hybrid model, or into our SaaS applications, how do we build that resilience into this? And so I really want to talk about these areas here, which is that end-to-end visibility. And customers are saying to me, I want to be able to always see what's going on in the network so that I know that resilience is there. Now, I love this word resilience, and I'm going to just take a step back into, are there any K-12 customers with me today? Couple. And I always know that I come from that first round of E-rate when it was not fun. Oh, it's still not fun, but it's still better. But I always say, when I wrote for my E-rate bid, for my Form 470s, I wanted to build a digital resilience. If I used the word redundancy, it was going to be a reject. I knew that. And so this word resilience really does hit home with me, because as we build out that network to be resilient for anything, this is important. And that it's the deep detections that AI can help us with. How can we know what's happening? And I always say AI augmented responses. How can we have a team that is forever, it seems to be shrinking in the number of people on our team. How can that team now do the work of 20, 30, 50, 100 people? Because we'll never get 100 people on our security team or our network team. But how can we have things that are in our tool bag that make us appear as if we are a team that is that mighty? And again, those automated responses are part of that piece. Now, when we start thinking about that embedded AI into this, we have a fun tool that we brought to the party here at Cisco a year ago. And I always want to talk about the Cisco and Splunk tool together. because this is really what's given us this data platform to fuel that digital resilience. And you saw that in this morning's keynote, is now Cisco and Splunk together are going to be able to provide you with so many more tools on our campuses. One of those such tools that we are seeing in this space, and especially within public sector, is this idea of a public SOC or a SOC run by the government, by the state, or by a university for all of those that are in that public sector of the state. Louisiana is a great reference on this. Cisco and Splunk together doing this. And if you haven't heard this story, they have a session tomorrow talking about this. But again, this is where the governor helped fund into Louisiana to say, build a SOC so that every campus in the state can use that same SOC. And the fun piece about it, it is student powered by day. It's partner powered by night. And so having a great partner in helping with this space. Now, I also like to think about this from an educator perspective, is having a student-powered SOC is giving those students in their major, in their line that they want to go into career, that opportunity and the experience and their digital badges. I have friends up here in the region area from the educational region units in Texas, and I think, could you use a student-powered SOC even at the regional center and have some of the students that are in those security operations courses help be part of that process? This to me is how we think differently at Cisco, to really think about the education side of it and helping students with their certifications and digital badges. And again, we'll talk a little bit more about that because that brings in a little bit of Networking Academy as well. But as we build this slide out, it's gonna kind of, where does that, it may be that one campus needs more support than another campus, but if something happens on that campus, is it going to be something that's alarming that we need to then secure it? And again, this is all pieces that we've been talking about with many other states, is how can the governor, how can that university provide the services for each and every school district? We're finding that in our school districts, the districts do not have the money that they need for a true security operations center. So how can we provide that? And this could be a model to use. And again, it's Cisco and Splunk together truly making it happen. So I want to talk a little bit more about, so let's keep building out, sorry about that. We're going to go into this second pillar. And I will tell you, as an educator, this is kind of where my sweet spot is, like I said, is how can we make the experiences on our campuses, K-12 or higher ed, be a seamless experience for all of our faculty, staff, and students. And when we think about this in these 8 areas, we're always thinking about what does the network need to do in these areas? How can it help make that experience easy for our teachers and students and staff? So let's think about that agility to support, and we think about also the piece of that resiliency of the network. Again, digital resilience and now agility coming together to really think about the spaces on our campuses. Now, I always talk about that amazing experiences, but come to that second one, is a lot of presidents and superintendents are saying, we are now competing for our students. So our experiences on our campuses need to be phenomenal. They need to be exceptional experiences so that students want to be here. And I always remember that story when I took my daughter on campus about 5 years ago to start looking at campuses, and I thought I picked out the perfect university, and I was excited. She's going to love this space. And it wasn't even the university that I was teaching at. And I said, you're gonna love this space. And she gets down and she's like, yeah, it's nice. Yeah, that's nice. Dorm rooms are kind of dated. And then all of a sudden she brings out her phone. I'm like, hey, they're presenting, don't do that. She's like, there's no bars here. And I'm like, well, no, you don't drink on campus. And she's like, no, Mom, there are no bars. Look at my phone. And I'm like, oh, she's not gonna like this dorm room experience. She's not gonna like, and so when she kept looking on her phone while we were taking the tour, she's like, no. I had more technology in my high school than I'm gonna have here. I was at a university just a couple months ago, and I was helping an instructor figure out how to use this seamless, beautiful new classroom. And she's like, I am so excited because this is what I had at my K-12, and I came to teach here after I retired from the K-12, and they had nothing. And she says, so I'm excited, and will it do this, and will it do this? And she started just pinging me with all of this stuff, and I'm like, yes. So again, we have to think about, many times our students are coming from a phenomenal space in the K-12, and they're getting to higher ed, and they're like, ooh, this space isn't what I really want. This isn't a magnet for me. And so when we're thinking about these spaces, I talk about collaboration, I talk about the technology, because this is what really drives these spaces. So we're gonna head a little bit into the network and into 4 main areas. But when you look at this, the first one I want to hit is the network, endpoint, and web security. And then we'll dive a little bit deeper into examples in those other 4. But without a network, it's really hard to do the other 3 experiences. And so I always say, with the network, we want to make sure that the people and the things that are on the network are secure. And this is when a secure cloud environment, such as secure access, can help us do that. And so this is a piece that as we talk about this, it's for all areas, the campus, the branch, it could be in the stadium. And these are the environments where, as I work with customers all the time, they're saying, we need something that's easy to implement. And so secure access, that cloud-enabled security environment, is just the ticket for that, so it can keep everything safer, every device and every person. Let's head into smart, sustainable buildings, because I'm working a lot in this area as we are constructing and reconstructing environments on our school campuses. And when we think about these environments, we're thinking about the sensors, the cameras. Cameras could be for physical safety, the cameras could be for the classroom area. But what is all the data in these spaces that can truly help us understand the environment and the use case, and give us the data as an administrative team to know, this building, we have less faculty that request this building or want to be teaching in this building. On my campus when I was teaching, I had a faculty member that said, I want to teach all of my classes in the education school. And she was from the public safety or public administration department. And I said, why? And she said, because the classrooms here are stable from floor to floor to floor. It's that seamless environment for me, and I don't have to worry, oh, can I do this in that classroom because I'm not teaching on that day in that room? They didn't have to think about things like that. And when I say that inconsistent experiences are some of the biggest drivers from our faculty to say, I want to be in a particular space. So are we building the spaces for them to work in, to teach in, but also for our students to learn in? And I keep referring back to my wonderful university I was at, because the business school moved out of a building and moved to a brand new campus a mile south. And so the education school moved into that building and totally retrofitted the building. And about a year later, I was at an event, and one of the business school teachers and I were talking, and he says, we'd like to have our building back. You built this wonderful atrium that was a magnet for your students, and they all love to be in there, and we want to be back on the main campus. Now, we have a beautiful building on the South Campus, but we'd rather be in our old building because we thought that we couldn't get the technology in that building the way we needed it to be to truly teach our classes moving into what is latest and greatest for business school students. And I thought that was really a good compliment to the vision that our dean had to think about those spaces. So let's head into hybrid teaching and learning. Because the classroom is the sensor. It is the data. It can automatically adjust lighting. It can automatically adjust those shades. The shades get broken in my K-12 classroom all the time because the students were over there messing with the shades. If you make everything automatic, going with the sun, and using that data, it's easier to have a seamless environment. But also this will then give you the data for the students that are in these spaces. Are they accessing the network? Is that important for this space? As you think about collaboration spaces or you think about work lab areas and things like that, these spaces that we're trying to build for our students and our faculty are ever evolving, and it's time to think about how can we make them more agile for our students. Because like I said, everything becomes a sensor. Even the huddle space off the library, the huddle spaces that are in the atrium of the buildings. These spaces can give you the data of even just the ambient temperature and adjust it. I mean, so many times I learned when I was teaching in one classroom, dress like you're in a parka because that room's gonna be cold. You know, so that is that piece that as we start putting all of our building automation onto the network, it's helping our faculty, it's helping our students really have that great environment that they are there for. So I'm going to dive a little bit into hybrid faculty that may be adjunct, where they have moved out of your community or they are outside of your community and they need to be teaching your students. This is a big piece. We know that almost, if not more than 50% of faculty now want some type of adjunct status. They want flexibility. We also know administration likes that because they don't have that many people on a FTE, full-time, educator. That rich immersive experience for those faculty that are adjunct should be there in their home environment or wherever they may be, if they're on a remote campus, whatever it may be. This is what allows you to really feel like you know your students. And this is, like I said, what I've done a lot of my work in. But I want us to also think about what you're seeing on the right side of the screen, is because the business office, it could be student health, it could be your work study, where the writing center or the math tutors can have an immersive experience and connect with students via video to really give some of those services. I say this is a great example for academic advising, so that they don't have to worry. Students are like, yeah, that screen is nice, it's just that little bit of distance that I need, and I don't have to be in their office. And it's easier for students. They find that environment, they like it when they can just set up an appointment and yeah, I'll click via video and join and we'll have a conversation. This is important, and I'm gonna pick up just a little bit about as we think about data centers and that pace of innovation that's happening in our data centers. Because since the onset of ChatGPT in November of 2022, we are seeing an exponential rise in how do we use AI within education. And I want to lead us to this hype cycle of Gartner's. Because we are going to see where we are at right now is that, we're at the peak of inflated expectations. What all can AI do for us? And we're going to start going into this trough of disillusionment. We are going to get through this cycle so fast with AI compared to any other technology in the last 20 years. When we used the first desktop and email systems, or we gave teachers laptops, that took a while for that adjustment period, for us to really adopt those technologies. But with AI, we're going to move fast. So it's like, hold on, here we go. And when we reimagine this data center, we're going to really think about these two pressures, the business pressures, the cost pressures, but we're thinking about what are the workloads? Do we have the bandwidth? Is that AI data center capable of running some of these workloads that we want? A lot of people have said to me, we will never put an AI data center in for K-12, and I'm like, you may want to rethink that a little bit because of PII. Our students and faculty that are current, as well as all of our students and faculty from the past, are we keeping that data completely away if we do not have something on-prem, if we're using some type of application to give us this information and run those workloads. So I think about those comprehensive infrastructure that we need when we're running AI. I'm thinking always about those seamless operations that we need as well. So let's get into some use cases, because the first use case I bring up of using AI is that personalized experience. It used to be that you had to have an IEP in K-12 or a 504 plan to get a personalized experience for a child. But now we think about it in the terms of education. Can every student receive a personalized plan? And AI can help us do that. And AI can help us implement, because they can make the teachers more agile. I'm working on this with several people. One is the Learning Council. Another one, I just got done reading Saul Khan's book about how Khan-Migo was implemented within that environment. And again, that's personalized learning for each and every child. We also want to think about the smart and secure facilities, because this is a piece where we want to quickly deploy AI models with Cisco and NVIDIA to truly make those sensors do what we want them to give us the data. We want that piece to where it can quickly sense and adjust. And this is an important piece to this. I brought this one up a little bit ago, hybrid teaching and learning, but it's now through video, through our endpoints, that we're able to say that we can truly, through AI, help our hybrid educators and our hybrid students. Now they can have over 100 different languages, translated and transcribed for them, but also to seamlessly take the transcript and to chapterize it and everything. But also we can have cameras that find the teacher wherever they're at in the room, but also that seamless integration of where when my students come in remotely, they're part of the community of my classroom that's in person, and they're not lurkers that are on that screen at the back of the room that I can barely see. They're part of that immersive environment. And I think this is really important as we think about these challenges. And then the last one is in our research computing space. We can now make it to where our researchers, whether you're R1, R2, but also know that there's research going on within our K-12s. I was one of those researchers in a K-12 when I was teaching, to where I wanted to be able to get that information quickly at the end of every day so that I can adjust and see what I need to do differently. But we also have to think about that AI use case, AI being used in the research environment that maybe is a remote location. So I promised that I would give you some resources. Here's my governance resources. It's a QR code that will lead you to the 6 principles of AI that we use here at Cisco. It will also take you to the AI framework, as well as an assessment tool. Your AI team on your campus, on your facilities, give them these resources to use as a resource. This is what's been effective for us, and we want to make sure and share that for you. And then I also want to share just a little bit about networking academies. This one is an important piece because the role of generative AI and the skills needed for our workforce, these are great courses that we have released. An example is this Introduction to Modern AI. This course is 6 hours long. It can be instructor-led, but it also can be self-paced, so you can add it as a module. But an instructor can go in and pull some of those video lessons that they want and build it into their curriculum. And at the end, when they take that final exam, they can get a digital badge. This is just one of the many that I'm talking about that we're just recently releasing. This is our curriculum right now. And again, remember, this is our way of giving back. The curriculum is no charge. Now, if you need a lab environment, things like that, then we can help you with, when it's not in that live environment, we can help you with the cost of that equipment as well. But just know that if you do not have a networking academy on your high school campus or in your higher ed campus, we're here to help you. But at the very least, just know, going to the networking academy and taking it as a self-paced and just saying, hey students, do this on the side, or this is part of the curriculum, and when you get done with it, bring me your digital badge, and that can be worth points into your grade. Those are all things that you can do right now today. And again, only Cisco truly unifies networking, collaboration, and security. This is the power of future-proofing and having that digital resilience on your network and building AI into it all to make it as easy as you can. And I'm going to share that please remind you to complete the session evaluation. Continue your education as well, because that is important. And I thank you for your time, and I'll be around if you have any questions.